for you. Loaded, I would absolutely say. And just kicking things off right now. Riley, we've done a few shows together, but Chris, this is my first one since you got back. How is it to be back here at Rock Solid Sports and WUTK?
Estoy de vuelta. I have returned. I am back. I'm, being over there was absolutely fantastic. It was a wonderful time, and I am just glad to have been able to experience it. So very happy to be back. I've tried to keep up with sports as much as I possibly could out there, while also doing my, my own internship. So it's been great, man. Again, feels good to be back. It's a little weird to be back though.
Yeah. Well, glad to have you back. And also talk about Riley earlier, but we're going to get to you in a second. We've got Connor down at our amazing Friday sponsor, the Hill Bar and Grill. Connor, how are you doing tonight? Okay, we do not have Connor at the moment, but we will shortly. Riley, how are you tonight?
Man, I'm pretty good.
It's
it's been a good week. It's the NFL draft. It's my favorite sporting event of the year, probably. So I've just been enjoying it, while it's happening.
That's good, yeah. And the NFL draft has definitely had a lot of eventful things with it, which we'll get to in a second. But Chris, how are you liking fall baseball since you've been back?
Well, I was very fortunate to have gotten and done the game on Wednesday when they played Xavier. That was a 10-1 win for Tennessee. For everyone out there who may have missed the game, wonderful performance by the Vols. They are just absolutely rocking right now. It is so wonderful to see. So wonderful to see this team that has returned from such a letdown that they had in Omaha going back last summer. And one that they knew that they had. They knew they let an opportunity get away, and I'm glad to see that they have really rose to the occasion as far as trying to get a bounce back season going, and man, they are just rolling right now. It's nice to see.
Certainly, and we have Riley over there, which not Riley, but we have Connor over at the Hill Bar and Grill. It's the second time I've done that tonight, but we've got Connor at the Hill Bar and Grill, and he's on the line now. Connor, how is the vibe? How are you doing? What's everything like at the Hill?
It may be cloudy outside, but there are still a ton of people outside enjoying the nice weather, or I guess a nice temperature, I should say. But yeah, they got some TV set up outside. They're watching the game.
That's awesome. Well, again, that is the Hill Bar and Grill, our fantastic Friday sponsor. They're just a great vibe to be at on any night of the week, especially on a Friday. Like there have been some Fridays or Saturdays where I was feeling a little tired, a little slumped, and then I'd go over to the Hill and I felt rejuvenated. The long week was made to feel short, and it was just an incredible time. Not to mention their wings are fantastic, their burgers, everything there is very good. And again, you definitely want to check out the Hill Bar and Grill, where we've got Connor tonight. But let's kick things off. Let's get in a little more into UT baseball. And every time I look at the stats for the Vols, it's just staggering. Just from a team standpoint, 17-1 in SEC play, 38-3 overall, which is unbelievable. But my favorite part so far this season, we just swept Florida, which is fantastic. But there's just a lot going on right now. And with us starting off the series tonight against Auburn, number 19 ranked in the country, how are we feeling? Connor, I'll start off with you. I know you're the number one baseball guy for the station. How are things in your view?
I'm feeling really good about it. And to be honest, now that, when you just mentioned the Porter thing, it really made me think about how much that Tennessee has really confirmed and really proven that they're here to stay. Because if you look at last year and a lot of the competition we had in the SEC, they have fallen off hard versus Tennessee. And you can't even say that Tennessee hasn't lost a bunch of really good players. So we've had some turnover and we're still on top. So I think that just can speak to how good of a job Coach V has done.
Absolutely. And I know there have been a lot of haters for us this season as we've been winning. A lot of people saying, Tennessee baseball, the fans are too hype, and just, normal criticisms that you see out of not an upstart program, but a team that people didn't really expect to be dominating the way that they are. So from that standpoint, I want to ask you, Chris, what do you think is the secret ingredient that has us seemingly head and shoulders above everybody else?
I think what it is this year is that it's kind of relying on the pitching, because I think, Tennessee had great bats last season, right? That's something that was already there. You look at the pitching from last season. I look at the team from this season. I just think this is kind of what they were missing a little bit from last season, especially in Omaha, right?
Yeah.
To have what you have now, to have, as we've tried to put it succinctly, to have this good problem of having too many good pitchers, and who do you start and when do you start them and things like that. That is what is going to propel Tennessee to continue to be a great team this season, as well as potentially as they get into the get closer to the College World Series and whatnot. So I think that's the big difference this year. It's got to be the pitching.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the kind of heat that's been coming out of our dugout is pretty incredible. When you have someone throwing over 100 miles an hour regularly, I mean, that makes me think of Aroldis Chapman with the MLB doing that. And I was amazed with that. But the regularity that we're seeing that from Tennessee is incredible. And of course, the consistency of Dollander at pitcher has been great as well. We have a great bullpen. And just a great set of batters as well. I mean, it's really exciting. And Riley, how about you? What is it like watching Tennessee baseball for you and going up against number 19 Auburn? Do you think there are any different stakes there than being ranked and us still having that Alabama and Texas Tech series in our memory a little bit?
Right. I think realistically, this is almost like a stars aligning moment for Tennessee. It's gotten to where we've got the bats. The bats are hot.
Yeah.
The pitching is just clicking on all cylinders. Everything's lining up for this team to really make a push. And as long as they can continue with this, blistering pace that they're at, then this team's horizons are not limited by anything. And I do think they'll go farther than they did last year.
Yeah.
That being said, coming up this weekend, I think this is the hardest challenge that this team is going to have so far this season. And I say that because you think about the Ole Miss series. Ole Miss, they're not ranked now.
Yeah.
Most of the people that we went into and we're thinking this is going to be a tough series, they're also ranked. A lot of those teams are no longer ranked. I think one of the only big struggling games that we had against an opponent that's still ranked is Texas, and we lost that game.
Yeah.
So I think going forward, I think this Auburn team, they've proven that they deserve to be there. They deserve to be ranked. I think if we're not careful, they take one off the balls this weekend at home at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. So realistically, I do think we drop one there. Probably either game 3 or game 1. I do think it'll be one of the two.
Yeah.
It depends on Chase Burns. Can he bounce back? And Drew Beam, can he bounce back? I don't think it'll be both of them struggling, but I do think one of them will have to step it up and say, my slide ends here. I'm a good pitcher in this SEC. I am one of the best pitchers in the SEC, as both of them can be.
Yeah. That's an interesting take. And Connor, I'm curious, do you think that it's going to be a 2-1, or do you think we sweep, or maybe even Auburn does better than getting one game on the Vols?
I mean, honestly, I think it should be a sweep. I mean, 2-1 wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
But as crazy as this sounds, I really honestly would rather have Tennessee play against ranked opponents the rest of the way out, just because I feel like it sharpens our skills and hones us more in versus playing some of the the worst teams that we have left. So I think every opportunity we have left against the ranked team, we're going to take very seriously, and we should see our guys really stepping up.
Yeah, and that's I see. I'm definitely on that end of things. I'd love to see us get a sweep, and I think it's very doable for how well this group of Tennessee Vols have played this season. But also, if we lose a game, I understand. But what I'm wondering is, since we're a little bit further down the stretch of the season, guys are maybe getting a little fatigued. Some minor injuries are stacking up. I'm wondering if we don't have a situation similar to, and I hate to play to it, but April 10th, that was our last game of the series against Missouri. We win that 4-3, and then we have the back-to-back losses against Tennessee Tech on the 12th of April, and then the 15th we lose to the first series of games against Alabama. So I'm wondering if maybe we go 2-1 or we win 3-0 in the series against Auburn, and then Alabama A&M punches us in the mouth and just surprises us a little bit because we're banged up. Riley, as you said, they're a punchy team. They're a tough group. in Auburn, and they've earned that ranking. So they wear us down, and then maybe Alabama A&M, our motor's a little bit lower in that game, and then they sneak a win in on us. And I wonder if we don't maybe have, a little bit of not an identity crisis, but just some struggles in the early goings of the series against Kentucky. But again, that's more of a doomsday scenario. That's just me having been a Tennessee Volunteer fan for a long time.
You're always prepared for the worst, right?
I really am.
You got to be.
Be excited and ready for the best, but absolutely be ready for the end of tenure of Butch Jones. Yeah.
Yeah. I always put it, hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
Because that's as Tennessee sports fans, we all know how it tends to go sometimes. But you know what? I think this baseball team, there is something special about this baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
The camaraderie that they have.
Yeah.
They do everything. The home runs, the stolen bases, the pitching is phenomenal. The batting, my goodness. I mean, even the fifth best batter is still batting .310.
Yeah.
The fifth best batter is batting .310.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. And
that is one thing I would add. I know we talked about the pitching being better from last year, but I would definitely say that I think the lineup this year, like 1 through 9, has more consistency in it than last year. I do think we tend to score earlier in games than we did last year. And I feel like last year we were kind of, like a late inning team, and then we had a lot of rallies.
Yeah, and I know it's a loaded question, but I'm curious, Connor, with the improved pitching and batting, which again we were doing both very well last year. Who are your most improved players on both sides there of the both sides of the mound?
Well, I think for the batter, I mean, it's gotta be Trey Lipscomb, I think. I mean, he was just having a monster year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was good last year. Don't get me wrong, he's always been good. But I mean, his power numbers this year, and I mean, the way he just seems to get a clutch hit almost every time you meet him.
Yeah.
And then I think for our starting rotation, you got to go with Chase Bolander. But I mean, out of the bullpen, you can't overlook Ben Joyce. I think that's just such a crazy weapon to have if you happen to be up by 1, bringing in a guy that throws 104 and can throw at least 101 the whole inning. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild that that's the case. And I mean, we just have like you're saying, a 1-2 punch. You think, okay, they're going to score some runs on us, but maybe we can get some by their pitchers. Nope, not with the Vols. And I think that's why you look at us again. We're 38-3, and we're 17-1 in SEC play, which is just incredible. And I know just a second ago, I was giving some doomsday predictions of, the Vols could just completely fall apart after this Auburn series because they're tough. But being more realistic and more in line with how they performed this year, this has definitely been a special team, like you were saying, Chris. And what I'm wondering is, was that, loss to Texas Tech and then Alabama back-to-back, was that just a blip in the radar? Or what does that tell you? I know we talked this to death and everybody's really talked about it, but right now where we're standing, not having lost a game since that Alabama one, and sweeping the Gators just recently, what does it tell you about the team? Was it just a learning experience, or just again kind of there's a lot of games in baseball and you're going to lose some?
So I'll take first bite at this now. So, and I'll let you guys jump in afterwards because I didn't really get to unfortunately see the Tennessee Tech game. Fortunately, unfortunately. So I don't know a lot about that, but what it seems like on paper and surface to me is that yes, it's just a natural part of the game where you're going to go through phases where things like that are just not going to go your way, right? I mean, we see it in any sport, but especially for Tennessee, and comparing that to what you're talking about, this doomsday scenario,
mm-hmm.
it's very likely that Tennessee could need something like that before they get to the postseason.
Yeah,
because these things tend to fortify really good teams
mm-hmm.
as they go towards the playoffs. So if it does happen, I mean, it may end up being the best thing for Tennessee. You don't want to go into the a postseason as well, for lack of a better term, I guess. You don't want to go into it rolling high. You want to be pretty humble. So anyway, if it happens, great for Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely. And Riley, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm right there with Chris. I think it's just a natural thing. It's part of the game. I mean, people are going to get
mm-hmm.
you're going to lose a couple games here and there, and
yeah,
that's just the nature of baseball. Bats are going to be hot. Bats are going to be cold. That's just the way it goes. So as long as you don't get yourself too down on it, you don't get yourself in a slump off of losing one game. You can take that like the Vols did.
Yeah.
They dropped the Tennessee Tech game and then they turn around and drop the Alabama game. I think it's a shocker. And Tony V even said something along the lines of, hopefully that some of my messages will start landing a little harder now. So I think assuming, and I will assume that is indeed what happened. They did start, hearing those messages because they did bounce back and they started really hitting on all cylinders. And I think they're back to where they were. I think as long as our pitchers, like I said earlier, Drew Beam struggled a little bit last week, and Chase Burns obviously not been having the past couple of weeks. Assuming, Chase Burns right now on the mound, bouncing back tonight, if he can do that, then I do think this team is in a much better spot. I mean, I think even playing in close games like the last game of the Florida game, Game 3 of Florida, where we're in the 11th inning, and then, you have a freshman come in and make a superhero play. I think that's great for the team. I think it builds morale, builds trust in between those guys, and can really set them up better for the future.
Absolutely. And turning it over to you, Connor, with that, I also kind of want to ask you another question there, if that's okay, a little twofer. What's a series this season, as the regular season's coming to a close, that you were really, really eager to see what the Vols do?
Well, I'm definitely curious, obviously, of this one and the Georgia one, just because those are our two remaining opponents. But, I mean, we can never rule out traveling to Mississippi State. We talked about this a little on Monday's show. Those cowbells can get into anybody's head.
Yeah.
That's got to be one of the most annoying things to ever have to deal with.
Yeah.
Especially trying to time up a fastball. That's got to be brutal.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't imagine it. And I'm not nearly good enough to have played baseball outside of MLB The Show a few times here and there, or Wii Baseball, but trying to focus and make those pitches or make contact with those cowbells has got to be pretty frustrating. But again, I mean, looking at the Vols batting average, it's pretty insane. Connor, you were referencing it earlier, but I got to cover a game earlier this season against South Carolina. I saw all of our batting averages. I thought, wow, this is crazy. I mean, I guess college baseball just has higher averages, and then it goes over to South Carolina, nowhere near, few guys that are, hitting pretty well, but no one for the most part near what the Volunteers are doing at bat. So it's just incredible to watch this with our baseball team. And right before we go to break, Riley, I want to turn the question to you that I just asked Connor. You're talking about how scrappy Auburn is. Is there another team or series that you're really looking to? Again, obviously the last two SEC ones outside of the one here with Auburn, we've got or the last three: Kentucky, Georgia, and then Mississippi State. Are there those three looking like one that you're eager to see?
Yeah, right now I'm right with Connor. I'm looking straight towards Mississippi State. I think there's that's a pitfall game, or a pitfall series, I should say. They're a very good baseball team, even on their worst day. And I don't think you can ever really count them out. And I've got, the reason I say this is because I've got a lot of Mississippi State fans in my family. So that a lot of them will be the first to tell me. They're always in my ear. And so I was always around Mississippi State baseball growing up. So, I don't think they're a team that you can ever count out, Vol fan for life. But, just being around that, I've seen what they do, and they're a very good baseball team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that does it for our first segment. You're listening to 90.3 The Rock.
Hey, this is Blake Clark, the Cajun coach and the water boy. This is 90.3 The Rock of the Hill. Now what remember that? We live a fine day.
The Rock thanks the Hill Bar and Grill for their support. The Hill on Forest Avenue is open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. until late night for dining indoors or on the expanded patio. The Hill has a variety of appetizers and a full menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. The Hill is our Thursday Munchie Madness sponsor and home of Friday's Rock Solid Sports. On Instagram at The Hill Knox. Menu at thehillknox.com.
Support to keep WUTK on air comes from listeners and from the UT Athletic Department and the UT Lady Vols softball team, whose home season schedule at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium features games against SEC rivals Texas A&M, Auburn, and others. AllVols.com for Lady Vols softball tickets and more. UT students need a valid UT ID for admission to all home games. WTK's Rock Solid Sports provides UT softball coverage. Volunteer Radio wishes the 2022 Lady Vols softball team good luck as they compete to return to the College Softball World Series.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2022 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smokies Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will cover Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
Hey, this is Rob.
This is Derek.
From the Funhouse. For over a decade, we've been getting your weekend started right.
So grab a beverage or whatever it is you need to grab and tune in every Friday night at 8 o'clock.
On 90.3 The Rock, Volunteer Radio.
It's the best show in the universe.
The Funhouse, brought to you by Raven Records and Rarities at 1200 North Central Street in Happy Hollow, Knoxville. Source for new and pre-loved vinyl and more for nearly 40 years.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to listener donations and support from the UT Athletic Department. After making it to Omaha last season, the 2022 baseball fall season begins in February and runs into May, featuring games with SEC rivals South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Season, group, and individual game ticket info is at allvols.com. Students need to show their valid UT ID at the gate for entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
The Rock.
Be real, son.
Delivering Knoxville more new music than any other station in town.
Be real, son.
90.3 The Rock. We are the new music leader in Knoxville.
All right.
Volunteer Radio stays on air thanks to Cool Beans, the 21-up college sports bar next to campus on Lake Avenue, a block off the strip. Cool Beans has 25 rotating beer taps and bottles. HGTVs everywhere, along with darts, pool, and arcade games. Open every day at 11 a.m. to late night. Burgers, wings, and sandwiches, vol card accepted. Cool Beans hosts Rock Solid Sports every Monday night at 7. Trivia Tuesdays, Bingo Thursdays. More on Instagram at Knox Cool Beans or CoolBeansBar.com.
WUTK thanks nonprofit Dogwood or Arts for their support and community partnership. The inaugural Southern Skies Music Festival is a Dogwood music event curated by Knoxville's The Dirty Governors. Saturday, May 14th on the lawn at World's Fair Park. Live music from Blues Traveler, Maggie Rose, The New Respect, and 5 other bands performing. VIP and general admission tickets are on sale now at southernskiesmusicfestival.com and dogwoodarts.com. Listen to 90.3 The Rock for chances to win a pair of VIP tickets. A link is at WUTKradio.com.
Hi, this is Cy Conan from The Fix. You're listening to 90.3 The Rock, where music matters most. Thank God.
The Rock thanks the Hill Bar and Grill for their support. The Hill on Forest Avenue is open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. until late night for dining indoors or on the expanded patio. The Hill has a variety of appetizers and a full menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. The Hill is our Thursday Munchie Madness sponsor and home of Friday's Rock Solid Sports. On Instagram at The Hill Knox. Menu at thehillknox.com.
Support to keep WUTK on air comes from listeners and from the UT Athletic Department and the UT Lady Vols softball team, whose home season schedule at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium features games against SEC rivals Texas A&M, Auburn, and others. Allvols.com for Lady Vols softball tickets and more. UT students need a valid UT ID for admission to all home games. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports provides UT softball coverage. Volunteer Radio wishes the 2022 Lady Vols softball team good luck as they compete to return to the College Softball World Series.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Rock Solid Sports. It's exciting. I love coming back to that song. It just makes me so excited. You know, it's brings me back to childhood and seeing the movies in theaters. It's just
it is a perfect song.
Context now, of course, too.
Exactly. Yeah. No underlying messages here.
Yeah, but yeah, we are right back. We just talked some Tennessee baseball, and we're kicking things right back into full swing. And Riley, I'm going to turn it over to you. But before I do that, I'm going to ask Connor, the Hill Bar and Grill, is it still as awesome as always down there?
I have to agree with you right then and there. It is getting pretty excited here.
Yeah.
With Tennessee having a runner on first and second with nobody out. So, people are keeping me at a seat here, including myself.
That's great. Well, again, the Hill Barn Grill starting to fill up right now, so you have time before the line forms, but even then, you got to go. The Hill Barn Grill, thank you again, our Friday sponsor. But yeah, Riley, going over to you now. So some things happened. Some people aren't wide receivers for the Tennessee Titans anymore. How do you feel and what happened?
Let me tell you the story of when I found out, right? So we had just got done filming Vol News, and I go down there and we're editing the show. Spoiler alert, we don't get anything done editing the show. I had to come back and do that today. But, I've got the draft pulled up on another monitor while I'm editing, and, I'm waiting on 26 to come around when the Titans pick. And all of a sudden, I see the Titans are on the clock at I think 18 it was.
Yeah.
And I was, wonder what, check my phone. And Jack and Sammy can tell you, two people that were there with me, my voice cracked as I screamed no and ran out of the room.
Yeah.
It was a gut wrenching moment. I think AJ Brown, his impact on the Titans can't be understated.
Yeah.
The Titans were in a little like a wide receiver limbo for 20 years. They couldn't get a wide receiver on the roster that had any sort of impact, and they couldn't draft one. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And so you look back in the past, it's Dorial Green Beckham. It's people like that are Tajay Sharp. I mean, those are your wide receivers that you're getting. Corey Davis.
Kenny Britt, rather. He had a good season, but then he left and did nothing ever again.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was like there's just this dark place at the wide receiver position for the Titans.
Yeah.
And, finally the draft comes around. I can't remember if it's 2018 or 2019. I can't remember off the top of my head. But they draft AJ Brown, and all of a sudden things start turning around a little bit. And finally we have a Pro Bowl wide receiver, and he's doing big things. And AJ Brown's potential looks unlimited with the Titans. His chemistry with Ryan Tannehill is great, firing all cylinders. The offense finally is doing good. The down year that we had this last year was because AJ Brown wasn't there for several games.
Yeah.
And so it was just absolutely mind-boggling to see that the Titans decided to trade AJ Brown. And the idea, there are several conflicting reports about the deal that was going on and what was being offered and what wasn't being offered. And what we know is that the coaching staff and the Titans front office were saying there was such a big gap there, it felt insurmountable. We felt like we had to do something. And I have several gripes with that.
Yeah.
Because even if you did want to, you need to get that deal done.
Yeah.
AJ Brown is a generational player and was one of the best things to happen to the Titans franchise in a long time.
Absolutely. And he's young. He's 24 years old, 6'1", 225, your prototypical receiver that you can plug him in slot. You can have him run deep routes. I mean, whatever you want him to do, he can do it. And I'm in a similar situation with the Ravens, but I'll get to that later. Titans are the main team here in Tennessee, of course.
Right.
And we mentioned it earlier with a lot of the players, Dorial, I don't even remember their names.
Dorial Green Beckham.
Dorial Green Beckham. There you go. I don't even remember their names. And the Titans just kept missing, like you're saying, Riley. And then the only guy I can think of that was really good for the Titans at wide receiver is borderline Hall of Famer
Ken Dyson.
Dyson was really good, but I was going to say Derek Mason. Derek Mason was just OG of the game. Absolutely.
He was a great receiver.
He was. And the Titans, I mean, I don't understand why you would trade him away in 4 years for $100 million. Granted, is a good chunk of change, but with how wide receiver contracts are evolving and exploding right now, I think that's a pretty fair deal for someone who's 24 years old. And again, they wouldn't be starting right on that contract. It's basically 5 years. That's next year plus the 4-year extension. So I don't understand why you don't make that move. Like Taylor Lewan, giving him that massive contract, and they could never have known the injury was going to happen, but he's not the same player. Week 1 or whatever it was against the Cardinals, where Chandler Jones busted past him for 5 sacks in a game. I think Lewan gave up 8 sacks total in that game. I mean, that's snake bitten right there. The Titans are paying a lot of money to a lot of different guys, and when you have to give away someone like AJ Brown, I like the Titans. I'm a Ravens fan because I was born there, but the Titans, I grew up watching them here in Tennessee, and seeing them make a move like trading AJ Brown, I really don't understand. It confounds me as well. And the guy they drafted out of Arkansas, I don't recall his name.
Traylon Burks.
Burks has a lot of upside. He could be a player
Absolutely.
very similar to A.J. Brown, but as Jackson, the usual host for our Wednesday Rock Solid Sports, said in a group chat, it's great and all we got someone very similar to A.J. Brown, but if we're just kicking the can down the road, 3 years for the exact same situation, what does that do?
I think, because in that situation, you have A.J. Brown, who what you have with A.J. Brown versus, okay, well, we have to see how does Burks, progress, making sure he stays healthy, because that's obviously the big thing. And for someone like A.J. Brown to have already gotten to the point, excuse me, in his rookie contract that he's at, I'm not surprised he commanded so much money, but it is a little, excuse me, it is a little dumbfounding to see that wide receivers are getting paid near quarterback money these days in the NFL. I mean, that's quite a big contract that he's pulling from Philly, and good for the Eagles. It's going to make them a better team. Obviously, given their quarterback situation, they're going to, nothing against, Jalen Hurts, but they're going to need some great guys for him to get the ball to, right? So good for them, but for the Titans, it's a little dumbfounding that you make this kind of a decision on draft day, and I think it's kind of to what Riley's saying here, and I think to what some of our other fellow Titan fans here at WTK felt, is that it just came out of nowhere. It was a really big shock and surprise, and not a good surprise to the fans. It's like, okay, what are we doing right now? So that's the vibe I kind of caught from it. Don't know why the Titans really decided to do that. I'm with Grant. I think you have to keep A.J. Brown in Nashville for the foreseeable future. I know he was asking for, maybe more money than you wanted to dish out. It is what it is. This is a guy who kind of deserves to command quite a good contract.
Yeah, and he's, again, 24 years old. He's already had some really good seasons behind him. He is primed to enter
his best
into.
years are still ahead.
Exactly. He's primed to enter into the best years of his career. Connor?
I agree with all of that, but I will go ahead and say this, because I just had to look it up and fact check myself. So John Robinson, the Titans GM, has had the job since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Since 2016, he has drafted Jack Conklin, Corey Davis, Adoree Jackson, Rashawn Evans, Jeffrey Simmons, Isaiah Wilson, and Caleb Farley, all in the first round. Out of all of those players, 2 of them are currently on the team.
Wow.
That's
and
astounding.
that's only because they haven't had their contracts come up yet. They're still on the rookie deal. The 2 people on the team are still on their rookie contracts. So I don't even why draft these people in the first round if you're not even willing to re-sign them after the rookie deal is up? Because players like Corey Davis and Conklin, to me, like those 2 guys, produced in Tennessee and definitely I think did enough to earn another contract.
I agree with you, but also looking from a pragmatic standpoint, as a GM, I'm not a GM, but just looking at it from their perspective, the NFL, not for long. I don't know what the average lifespan for a player's career is in the league, but I think it's somewhere between, 2 and 3 years, somewhere in there. I mean, so with that, I think it's understandable that there's a lot of shuffling, and from what he's been able to do as a general manager of the Tennessee Titans, just revitalizing the franchise when it looked like they were going to be, at the bottom of the AFC or toward the bottom for a while, is incredible. And I think that says something about him as a GM. So I definitely am confused by the A.J. Brown trade. And also that stat you just gave, Connor, is certainly alarming for ability to draft well and also retain those players. But I think if they've done this well, it's not just off of, luck. There's definitely some skill involved there. So I think the Titans are still in good hands. I have a lot of questions about Tannehill, and I just read something. I may be wrong on this, but at $38 million next season, he has the most amount of money out of anyone else in the league that he's making in salary next year, which is just preposterous to me, considering the average, adequate play at best that Tannehill gives. No offense to him, because he was doing some really great things, for 2 seasons with the Titans, but whatever sharp play he had in that revitalization in his career that we saw with him has certainly slipped away. So Tannehill, I don't know, but going off of some other NFL news, because we could talk about the Titans all day, just given everything that's happened. Got to talk about the draft as well. You touched on a little bit Riley, but first overall pick, Jacksonville Jaguars, a fellow AFC South team, took Trayvon Walker first overall. An absolute shock to me. Everybody's talking about his upside as far as NFL pundits and scouting aficionados, and what he can do and where they can move him on the field. But he had 6.5 sacks last year, which was his career high. And before that, he had 3.5 sacks with Georgia. And I'm kind of thinking maybe Georgia has such a great system and so many talented players on there that maybe he looked a little bit better than he is. I'm not saying that he isn't a great player with a huge upside and potential, but with only 6.5 sacks last year, I feel like you gotta get something more consistent than that at a number 1 pick. Somebody who has the upside and also has the stat sheet to prove that they're worth that number 1 pick. But again, this is the Jacksonville Jaguars, one of the most snake-bitten franchises in the league. They were lucky to start off winning with Mark Brunell and Tom Coughlin at the beginning of their franchise. Now, God help them. But yeah.
Yeah. They have long gone away from the Fred Taylor years, right? When they were actually a really fun team to watch back in the day. And now it's like, okay, this is a Jacksonville move.
Yeah.
You're talking about somebody who's worthy of being a number 1 pick, somebody whose name rings bells, somebody who you want to see playing on your team come this season and make an instant impact. Somebody like, I don't know, Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe you could have gone in that direction. Now I do like that Detroit got to get him because I don't know, it's something about the adding the geographical perspective in, right? Like Hutchinson gets to stay in Detroit. As we saw with Kenny Pickett. I'm sure we'll get to him in a second, but like it is, it's really cool because Aiden Hutchinson is like, he's going to be a premier player.
Yeah.
But why is Jacksonville, why you take Trayvon Walker? Because I think you're kind of on the money with it. Georgia had a system. Kirby Smart has his defense. And like, I think Trayvon Walker just perfectly fit that. He fit what they were trying to do and what they wanted to do. And obviously they were able to accomplish that. Okay, good on them. Trayvon Walker may have a lot of upside to him still, but why you take him number 1? That's just kind of dumbfounding to me. I hate to keep using that word, but that's kind of what the draft left me with, to be honest.
And going back also to the A.J. Brown, we have Riley. I don't know if you see this comment, but my poor boy was heartbroken. So that just goes to confirm you're really feeling it with that Titans move.
That's
right there.
Mama Halton there.
Yeah.
Mama Halton. Yeah. She's going to keep it real with us. You were crying.
Yeah.
Crying in your soda, man.
I called them right after. I had to talk to them about it. I had to vent my feelings about the whole situation out. It was rough.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I get that. Before we move to NBA, which there's a lot going on there, I just very quickly, because I know nobody cares about the Ravens, but the other
It's a big move. It's a big move.
It was a big move. Hollywood Brown got traded, and Lamar Jackson responded with WTF, which everyone knows what that is. If you don't, I mean, it's just. I mean, I don't
Google
understand.
does if you don't. I promise.
It does. It does. But I Hollywood Brown definitely gave me a lot of headaches in my time watching him. He made a lot of mistakes versus the Steelers when we very much should have still inched our way into the playoffs. He dropped a touchdown pass. I mean, it was a tough catch. It was a tough catch to make. And then he also, right before the game ended, he dropped a first down, what would have been a first down catch. And it's just moments like that that really frustrated me. He hadn't yet taken the step forward. But again, he's young. He's someone that has the opportunity to make those moves forward. There were some rumblings last offseason right before the year started where Hollywood was not happy with the amount that they were passing the ball and what the offensive game plan was. But, I mean, hey, it's all talk for the most part. You know, winning changes everything, and the Ravens have been a winning team for the most part. But trading Hollywood doesn't make sense because, I mean, like the Titans, the Ravens have really struggled to find a receiver in the draft. We drafted Rashad Perriman and a bunch of other people that just did not pan out. Torrey Smith was good for a few seasons, but he was a flash in the pan. Anquan Bolden, I stand by him being the best receiver in Ravens history just because of how huge he was in the postseason run where we won the Super Bowl. And also in his seasons here, he put up 900 yards every year for his 2 or 3 years in Baltimore. And given Joe Flacco's struggle to break the 4,000-yard mark, having only done it once in his career, and us never having like a firmly established passing game that you could consistently rely upon, Bolden was incredible. But the Ravens, traded away Hollywood Brown in a baffling move, and they drafted a center, which is, you know, they needed some help on the offensive line. They didn't need a center. They needed a tackle because Alejandro Villanueva, I'm going to say, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation. I'm sorry. He just retired, but when he was playing like he should have been retired. And yeah, I mean, God bless the Ravens. I don't know why you traded Hollywood Brown and upset Lamar Jackson in the process, but that's that. Let's talk some NBA. Going to NBA, this has been an incredibly exciting postseason, but for myself also, it's been a little bit of pain because I don't like Golden State. I don't like seeing them do well, and they're back. They are back. So, Connor, I'm going to kick it to you down at the Hill. How are you feeling about Golden State being back? Were you a fan of them before? Are you dreading their return? Where are you at with it?
Honestly, like, I don't hate Golden State just because, like, they draft, like, most of their guys are homegrown, you know. Like, I can respect that. They had a lot of guys that they kept in the process. I mean, you can hate on the KD decision as much as you want, but, I mean, there's no team that wouldn't sign KD, you know. But to me, I think the most interesting thing about these playoffs is I think the teams have lost, to be honest, because I think the teams that have lost already are pretty much going to get blown up, or something major is going to have to happen out. Pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
So I think that will be the biggest thing going forward.
Absolutely. And round 2 also poses a really interesting matchup for Golden State. We've got game 6 tonight for Memphis. They're playing against number 7 seed Minnesota. And Minnesota, talented roster with Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and D'Angelo Russell. But it's Minnesota. They always struggle to find wins, but they found them in the second half of the season and were just hot. They've got the series 3-2. They were tied 2-2 before, but decided ballet was not for them. And they went to it's 2-2. You know, dad joke. Sorry, had to fit it in. But
oh my God. I was so confused.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm really surprised that Memphis hasn't already closed the series. But John Morant is hurt right now. He's playing through some injuries, putting up some good numbers, but he's not the same, you know, lightning in a bottle John Morant we've seen during the season. Playing pretty well, but for the most part, still not quite there. But we're 3-2 lead for Memphis. I think they close it out this series. How do you guys feel about the Memphis Grizzlies? Are you confident about them? Is Tennessee really a basketball state? You know, are the Grizzlies back, the gritty Grizzlies?
Well, first off, to be back, you had to have been somewhere before. So I would not say the Grizzlies are back. But what I would say is that they are having obviously a tremendous season. Ja Morant, it's been really weird to see this Memphis team succeed with Ja and without Ja.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was getting ready to joke with our guy Bryson, who works here with us at Rock Solid, about, okay, if Minnesota would have done what they probably should have done this series and backdoor swept Memphis. We know we saw the big leads blown. We saw the big leads.
Yeah.
Imagine Minnesota wins this series 4-1 after losing the first game. I got to be like, okay, when is John Morant out the door? You know, because clearly Memphis is having a lot of success without him.
Yeah.
Jokingly, of course, because Ja is he's
the problem.
He's it, bro. Like, you want to go ahead and point fingers at that. He must be it. No, Ja's a tremendous player. He's going to be in Memphis for a long time, as long as they take care of him, of course. So, I don't know, man. With this playoff series right now, I want to see Memphis close it out so that we can see this Warriors series. Warriors Grizzlies is a series we all kind of deserve to see, right?
Absolutely.
I cannot wait. But Minnesota right now is still clawing their way. No pun intended. The Wolves they keep clawing at the Grizzlies, and we'll see what happens. If they can take care of home court tonight, and they certainly can, they have proven that they can win games in this series. Can they hold the lead? That's the only thing. That's the only question at this point. Can you hold the lead?
Absolutely. And also, I think it has to be mentioned because you said KD a little bit ago. 4-0 sweep. I love to see it. KD, always going to be cupcake in my book. Kyrie stomping on the Celtics logo, then flipping off the fans, I felt like was a little uncalled for given how he left that entire franchise and fan base in the lurch after saying he was going to re-sign and be there for life or whatever he said.
Kyrie did something like very unfavorable. That doesn't sound like Kyrie.
Yeah, right. But I'm kind of reveling in the sweep, but also it's just, I don't know. I'm very excited to see Boston as well. It's not just, I wanted to see the Nets lose, but we've got Grant Williams, Vol for Life and fellow Grant on the team. Shout out to him and Grant's everywhere. But Boston, I think Boston versus Milwaukee, just jumping ahead to the next round as you were at the end of what you're saying, Chris. Milwaukee and Boston for me, is the number one matchup at this next one, because Giannis and the Bucks are the reigning champs. Giannis has been carrying this team like a backpack, and Boston is just so well-rounded. Robert Williams probably going to be out. If he comes back, it's going to be right at the end of the conference finals or in the NBA finals. Again, that's if he comes back from his injury. But the team is still just, I mean, they swept the Nets, and you've got 2 Hall of Famers on there and Ben Simmons. But I'm really curious for this second round, and just to clarify, and going on to the West, Phoenix beat New Orleans 4-2. Dallas beat Utah 4-2. Golden State beat the Denver Nuggets 4-1. And of course, again, Memphis playing Minnesota, 3-2 lead for Memphis right now. And then on the East side, we've got Miami beating Atlanta 4-1, Philly beating Toronto 4-2, Milwaukee smacking around Chicago 4-1, and then the 4-0 sweep for Boston over Brooklyn. What game in the second series, or what game out of both conferences or series are you really, really looking forward to watching? I'll start off with you, Connor.
Oh man, this is a tough one. I really do like the Boston Milwaukee series. I think that one's going to be dynamic because of the scoring, and I think it's also really funny how, if you remember back in the trade deadline, so many people were calling for Boston to trade either Tatum or Brown because they were like, they can't work together. But I think that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But honestly, I know this is not a Jazz, but I really want to see what Utah does. But do they keep both Gobert and Mitchell, or do they trade one of them? And if they do, who do they trade? Because personally, I'm sticking with Mitchell the whole way. I don't even think the two is that close, but hey, Rudy Gobert is a 3-time or 2-time defensive player of the year.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to stick with Donovan Mitchell, in my opinion, but apparently there is a possibility that he could get shopped at the very least. I was saying at the start of this year, the Jazz were going to fall off and Rudy Gobert was going to get traded in the offseason or in season. The Jazz didn't fall off too much in the regular season, knocked out in the postseason. So I just wanted to pat myself on the back. I'm so sorry. Dad jokes and patting myself on the back. But anyways, Chris, your series that you're really looking forward to in round 2.
Well, first off, don't pat yourself on the back too much. You also thought the Wizards were going to make the playoffs this year.
Hey, there's reason for that bias, but yeah, you're right. That was wrong of me.
No, yeah, good start for them. Terrible ending, unfortunately. But for the series, man, I guess because Connor already stole Boston, Milwaukee, which to be honest is the premier series to me. I cannot wait to see what Giannis does against that Boston defense. It's just like it's unstoppable force and immovable object, right? So I cannot wait to see that. But I think on the other side of it, the Western Conference side right now, the series that is not quite there just yet. It's on the brink, but Memphis Golden State would be exciting. I don't find Dallas Phoenix to be all that exciting. I think Luka versus Phoenix and Devin Booker especially is going to be a very exciting matchup. I just think the Suns win at worst in 6, but probably in 5. So I'm going to go the potential of the Grizzlies and Warriors because 2 versus 3 matchup. Ooh, Lord, I cannot wait. That's going to be great.
Absolutely. And right before we go to break, Riley, what is a series that you're looking forward to in this second round?
I'm going to go with Sixers and who's that off the top of my head?
Miami.
Miami. Yeah. I couldn't think of the name off the top of my head for some reason. I had the logo in my head. But yeah, Sixers Miami. I think Miami's been playing like a 1 seed. I mean, they did really well against the Hawks, who I think a lot of people, if they had to pick an upset in one of the first rounds, that was going to be one of them. And so Miami I think impressed a lot of people with their play in the first round, and Sixers obviously with Joel Embiid and James Harden. Seeing if that can continue to blend, if that combo can continue to mesh. I do think that'll be a good series because I do think the Heat have been playing above what I was expecting, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And the Sixers have a new piece thrown in there that I think could really make things interesting for the series.
And that's a series I didn't know we were going to get. I thought we were going to get Toronto.
Yeah. That's another bold take right there. But yeah. And Riley, going back to, if you couldn't have named the Heat, I would have loved if it was like the basketball that's on fire, that team. I would have just loved that so much. That would have made my week right there. But just thinking of it did. So thank you regardless. But yeah, you're listening to 90.3 The Rock. We've got some more sports. Going to talk a little more NBA on the other side of this break. You're listening again to 90.3 The Rock.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to listener donations and support from the UT Athletic Department. After making it to Omaha last season, the 2022 baseball fall season begins in February and runs into May, featuring games with SEC rivals South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Season group and individual game ticket info is at allvols.com. Students need to show their valid UT ID at the gate for entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
The Rock thanks Central Flats and Taps for sponsoring our Bonnaroo Bus 2022 contest, and they will be hosting the reverse drawing to see who the grand prize winner is Tuesday, May 3rd. Registration for our 90 finalists runs from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m., and the reverse drawing begins immediately after. The public is invited to be a part of the party as well, as it is a pint night benefiting WUTK's 40 for 40 fundraiser. The Bonnaroo Bus registration box is in-house at Central Flats and Taps until Wednesday, April 27th. More info on the Bonnaroo Bus reverse drawing and party May 3rd at Central Flats and Taps is at WUTKradio.com.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Just jump in where you can and hang on.
We are 90.3 The Rock, jumping in and hanging on with good tunes since 1982.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2022 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smokies Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will cover Smokies baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
Volunteer Radio stays on air thanks to Cool Beans, the 21-up college sports bar next to campus on Lake Avenue, a block off the strip. Cool Beans has 25 rotating beer taps and bottles. HGTVs everywhere, along with darts, pool, and arcade games. Open every day at 11 a.m. till late night. Burgers, wings, and sandwiches, vol card accepted. Cool Beans hosts Rock Solid Sports every Monday night at 7. Trivia Tuesdays, Bingo Thursdays. More on Instagram at Knox Cool Beans or CoolBeansBar.com.
Hey, this is Rob.
This is Derek.
From the Funhouse. For over a decade, we've been getting your weekend started right.
So grab a beverage or whatever it is you need to grab and tune in every Friday night at 8 o'clock.
On 90.3 The Rock, Volunteer Radio.
It's the best show in the universe.
And congratulations to Derek and Rob, hosts of the Funhouse, for being voted Knoxville's finest radio celebrities in the Blank Newspaper 2021 Knoxville's Finest Readers Poll. Tune in Friday nights from 8 to 10 and find out why these guys won it without even wearing a suit and tie. The Funhouse, proudly sponsored by Raven Records and Rarities, located in Happy Holler.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Rock Solid Sports. I am the host and producer for tonight, Grant Mitchell, and we're also joined here by a bunch of great fellow students here at UT, Chris, Riley, and Connor. Connor, we've got you down at the Hill Bar and Grill. How is it down there?
It is getting stressful with the bases loaded and only one out, but it is 1-2, so hopefully Tennessee can put away the second batter of the inning, and maybe people will be doing a little better, but I got to say, people are getting kind of anxious here.
Yeah, understandable. But again, besides the anxiety for Tennessee baseball, the Hill Bar and Grill is the best place to be tonight and any other night of the week. It's a good location also to just kind of recover after the Vols lose. If that happens, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. I don't think it will, but if it does, or celebrate the victory. But going away from that, I'm going to turn it over to Riley. Riley, do you have anything you'd like to add also?
Oh, yeah. Shout out Mama. Dad, if you could get the service to work down there, he's at an Eagles concert right now with my little brother. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, right. So if you managed to tune in, shout out you and hey.
If you didn't, we understand. It's the Eagles.
Yeah. We appreciate you I specifically appreciate y'all for always tuning in, love y'all.
Absolutely. Shout out to the Halton family, and also shout out to everybody else tuning in. But yeah, that's
Roanne. Hey, Roanne.
Hi, Roanne. Yeah. And it's exciting. But yeah, we've got a little bit left before the show wraps, about 2.5 minutes. But wanted to continue this NBA conversation. We were talking about the second round, but also, as the first round has ended, I want to talk about the losing teams. We went in on Brooklyn, or at least I went in on them.
No Sweet Tail Brooklyn, you mean?
No, yeah, not a Brooklyn Nets fan, but yeah, I just wanted to ask you guys. I mean, Chicago, they started this year off so hot, and they ended it, 4-1 loss to Milwaukee. I really had high hopes for them. I thought they're going second round, guaranteed, and they just couldn't win against teams with a winning record. I think they lost every single game against the top 3 teams in the East and the West. So I mean, kicking things off. What do you think about that, Chris?
Well, I think for Chicago, it was a tough draw once Lonzo Ball went down, because once he went down, you can look at the statistics.
Yeah.
They were a sub 500 team. All of a sudden, things changed on the defensive end. And then we got to this playoff series, and unfortunately, you didn't have Caruso like that.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have Levine in the last game. So it was much easier for Milwaukee to kind of hone in on DeRozan, and just kind of limit what he was able to do, not just in his shooting game, but passing game as well.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he still had a few games that were pretty stellar, but it's unfortunately, Chicago, you were just, you didn't have all of your guys.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. So maybe next year they can come in, Lonzo Ball will be back. Obviously, they'll be kind of rocking and rolling again. If they can stay healthy, I'm with you. That's at least a second round team.
Yeah, absolutely. And Connor down at the Hill Barn Grill, what do you think about Chicago's, not implosion, but just not living up to the hype this year?
My biggest problem with them the whole year was their depth. I didn't think that they had enough of it if they lost to one of their big 3, and, being Lonzo, DeRozan, or Vucevic. And it turns out Lonzo did go down, and the exact thing I feared was exactly what killed them.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we end the show here, I want to kick it over to you, Riley. What do you think about this Bulls team?
No, I was never a big guy. I was never big on the Bulls. I never really thought they had a chance at a title this year. I mean, once Lonzo went down, that was the final nail in the coffin. I didn't think they'd be able to go past the first round, and sure enough, that's how it went down. And, I think that just had a lot of moving parts. Too much of their success depended on certain players, and it bit them in the back come playoff time. So Bulls, try again next year,
Absolutely. And once again, you have been listening to 90.3 The Rock Solid Sports, rocking ears for 40 years. Have a good Friday night.